Well, Happy New Year, everyone. Everyone who's still listening, watching the show. There hasn't been a show in a very long time, so Happy New Year. Long time, no talk, no see. I've basically dropped off the face of the planet. I mean, not really. There's still me whining from time to time on Twitter, and definitely whining on the more personal of the blogs that I have or web pages that I have. But for all intents and purposes, I really kind of dropped off the face of the earth at a certain point in time. And yes, I'm bringing back the podcast, but as I promised on Instagram, which, I'll give you all the links later to find me, follow me, keep up with me if you're so inclined. I was going to explain during this first podcast back, and maybe two, because there's a lot that there is to talk about, and I really should have taken notes, and I didn't. So if I wander and ramble a little bit, I apologize. I didn't even think I was going to be able to get around to doing this today, even though I promised, just because this past week has been extremely hectic, and we'll get to it. I'm supposed to have a little bit more free time than I technically should right now, so time to do this, but it didn't exactly happen. But we'll get to it. So as I just said, I want to wish everybody a very happy new year. I'm hoping 2023 is a lot better than 2022 was, at least for me. And, maybe you had a really great 2022. So if you had a great 2022, hopefully 2023 will be just as fantastic for you. And if you are in the boat like I am, where 2022 was a pile of steaming fucking shit, may it be forever buried, and may 2023 be a better year for us all. And with that being said, let's try to get into it. There is a lot here for me to unpack, and it wouldn't be fair for me to say that the problem started in 2022, because some of these things I'm going to talk about stem from more than a year ago. Some of these things came to fruition in 2022, but the seeds of the demise were planted years and years before that. And for those of you who are wanting to know more personal stuff about me, this is where you're going to get a chance to hear a little bit more about my personal life and stuff that I keep more close to the chest. I tend to be a very open person for the most part, but I have tried to respect my parents to a certain extent. And if you don't already know, my mother passed away in September of 2022. After battling basically a heart condition, which can lead to kidney failure if you don't get it taken care of, which had been going on for a couple of years, which I was somewhat aware of, but not to the extent that it actually was. And we'll get into that. So let's just talk about it. And I'm going to jump around, as I said, a little bit, because for me to explain some things, I'm going to have to go back into time. And just hopefully bear with me as I explain why I ended up just saying fuck it to everything. So at the beginning of 2022, as I said, things were already kind of going rough for me. And 2020 with COVID happening wasn't a walk in the park for me. I mean, I did well during the COVID pandemic that was going on. I never lost my job or anything, and I was making decent money, and as far as I know, I never caught COVID, but maybe I have. I think everybody's had it at this point, but I never caught COVID, and I've always remained gainfully employed, and it was actually a good time for me from a career perspective for the most part. I didn't have, I had some jobs that were not so hot, but I was always able to find another job. So things weren't getting me down from that perspective. So, the first part of it was okay. But when that was going on, and I had noticed it maybe a year or two, maybe 3 years before that, physically, I was starting to not feel very good, and I just couldn't understand why. So if you've been following me, you know that I used to train quite heavily in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, MMA. Plus I was lifting weights, and I worked out 6 days a week. And of those 6 days a week, I probably was working 2 times a day, 5 out of 6 days a week. 3 to 5 days I was lifting in the morning or training in the morning, and then in the evening I was working on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, Muay Thai, and all that other fun stuff. You knew me as a fitness kind of person, and I always was and felt really strong and had energy, but about 4 years ago, I started having problems with my energy levels. And then COVID happened and I couldn't go to the gym, which I knew was going to be bad just because I'm one of those people who has to go to the gym. Otherwise, I am prone to fatness. I'm a little too efficient in my metabolism. So while this was going on, I was going to see various doctors who were running tests on me and was telling me everything's okay. You just need to exercise more and eat less and get a good night's sleep. Look, motherfuckers, this is what I'm complaining about. I work out all the goddamn time. I try to sleep, can't sleep through the night. Some of you guys are probably already catching what's going on here. I can't sleep through the night. I wake up 15,000 times. I have constant migraines, and then shit is starting to hurt. Shit doesn't heal. I keep getting tendonitis. I keep having really bad, joint pain. I'm exhausted. I'm constantly exhausted. I'm trying to function, but I can't. Sometimes in the middle of the day, I just can't do anything. I have to take a nap and just sleep. And this was going on top of, in between here and there, having jobs that were just extremely stressful because, for the most part, corporate America is full of assholes, which you have to try to get along with. And I never really have a problem with people who answer to me or underneath me, but I definitely usually have a problem with management. Go figure. So while this is going on, I've probably went to go see 5 to 7 different doctors that were running all types of blood tests on me and shit, and everything was coming out fine. And I felt like I was crazy because things were not fine. I did not feel well. I didn't feel like myself. And, this is where I'm going to jump all around here. Over the since 2020, my physical fitness and ability just crashed. It became, when I tried to go back to doing Muay Thai, my ligaments never healed in my foot. And so it hurt for me to kick pads. It hurt when people were punching me. Now, punching definitely does hurt, but it was hurting me excessively so, to the point that the coach was just like, what's up, Tech? You don't mind this stuff. You're in the thick of it all the time, and you're actually backing up and wincing. And when I would try to do jujitsu rolls, I would get really, really dizzy. Now, it makes you dizzy, but I would get so dizzy that I slammed my head into the wall once when I was done doing jujitsu rolls. It was just really unpleasant. Now, this is on top of the other stuff that was going on that, I have problems with gyms. Because of a couple reasons. I don't like gym drama. I don't like the clickiness that's in gyms. I also don't like that depending on the gym you go on, either the girls are fucking bitches. Yes, I said it. The girls are bitches because there's some sort of hierarchy clique shit going on about we are the girls who do combat sports and let's take lots of pictures of ourselves, or drama about who's the best girl out of all the other girls. Or the dudes don't want to roll with me because I'm a girl. I don't want to roll with the other girls because the girls think I'm too strong and I'm bigger than they are because they're all waifs, and I have never been a waif my whole life. So that's all going on, just the general ickiness of gyms. But now I don't feel good. I don't feel like myself. And it was getting to the point, even going up and down stairs, carrying stuff hurt. Everything hurt. So what happened is I stopped training. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped going to the gym, the regular gym, which I used to go to, because I didn't like trying to train wearing a mask, but also every single time I would go lift or something, it fucking hurt. And I stopped going to, jujitsu, Muay Thai, all the other stuff, because it hurt and I didn't want to deal with the drama. So it's a 2-pronged thing. So with that going on, what happened? I got fucking fat. I got the size of a whale. I am the size of a whale. So that will explain to you why there are no Instagram photos of me. Somebody had made a really cruel comment to me on another, little podcast show that some of you are aware of, that, I was turning into a chunky monkey. I didn't really see it at that point, but yes, they're absolutely correct, because things were happening with my body and with me that was making it very difficult for me to maintain my training schedule and for me to just maintain my diet and activity to keep the weight off. Again, some of you guys are seeing where this is going. We'll get to it. But while this is all going on, you know, I'm still trying to do work and everything, and COVID's going on. So I was just like, fuck it, you know, the doctors aren't helping me. I feel like shit all the time. Everything's wrong. And you just give up. You literally give up because you're feeling like nobody's listening to you, and you feel like crap, and it makes it sound like it's in your head, and nothing you're doing is working, and nothing you're doing is making you feel better. So I just quit. I quit everything. And that's my fault there. You know, I quit everything. But to be fair, supposedly I was fine, but I didn't feel fine. So that's one thing that was going on. And obviously, since I gained so much weight and felt like shit and don't feel like the super strong, you know, Ms. Tech that I always was, that, you know, fucked my psyche up a little bit, because that's part of my identity. It was my strength and my physicality. That was part of my identity. Kind of like how my work, the fact that I work in technology, has always been a part of my identity. And if I'm not successful or succeeding at these things, then who am I? And you can call that a sickness, and I need to go talk to a shrink and yada, yada, yada. Look, I'm probably more self-aware than the rest of you motherfuckers listening to this right now, okay? I guarantee you I am more self-aware and more hard on myself than you ever could be. And that's why I'm relatively open, because anything that you can say to me is not as bad as the things that I say to myself at night in the mirror on my own time. So with that being said, let's move on. So we're at like 2020 there. Let's back it up a little bit and talk about my parents. So as I said, my mother passed away, and we're going to get to it. My mother passed away in September of 2022, but my relationship with my parents has never been the best. My father has always been I don't want to say raging alcoholic. He's a mean drunk. And he's really a huge Trumper. He's always been a conservative Republican, but he's a huge Trumper. And, you know, he never really talked to me or wanted to spend time with me when I was growing up. And this is going to be important for the story later on. He never really wanted to talk to me or spend much time with me. Now, my father loves me, and he loves me dearly, and he's very proud of me, but he would never tell me to my face. And I remember when I turned 21, around that time, I met him in a bar one night, and we were actually having a really good conversation. But when I left on my motorcycle, because I've always ridden a motorcycle, when I left on my motorcycle that night, and no, I was not drunk, I got to thinking, I was like, you know what? That's the best conversation I ever had with my father. But if the only way for my father to talk to me is I have to sit in a bar with him to do it, that's not the type of relationship that I want to have with my father. And I never did it again. And consequently, he and I never have spoken. I mean, we speak here and there, but we really haven't spoken. And, you know, there was one holiday after so many holidays where I think it was Thanksgiving, where I remember sitting at the table, and I had just gotten my master's degree at that point in time. And he said, you know, he was always disappointed that I never ended up being an officer in the Air Force, and that I wasn't, you know, didn't end up being a weather girl on TV. I had just graduated with my master's in telecommunications engineering and management, computer science, a master's degree, and he didn't think it was an accomplishment. Then he got into an argument with my mother, which always happened, and at that point in time, I swore never again would I spend the holidays with my parents. So I am 47 years old now. For those of you who've known me a long time, hey, we're getting old. But I want to say that I have not spent a holiday, yep, that's about right. I haven't spent the holidays with my parents in over 20 years. I've always been alone for the holidays, because it was better to be alone for the holidays than to have an argument with my father, or watch my mom and my father have an argument, because I mean, that's how it was when I was growing up. It was always like that. So and if I get a little upset during this, you know, these are some emotional things. You guys are going to hear it now, and then I'm never going to speak of this crap again, but it's all pertinent to the story that I'm about to tell you. So, and with my mother was always very difficult to speak with, because I don't really know a diplomatic way of saying this. Let's just say at the end of her day, she ended up becoming one of those Hotep Black Israelites bullshit, and kind of, racist in a different way. But she had always was into like holy rollers, or, fundamentalist holy roller, Baptist kind of derivative Christianity, which then ended up into the Black Israelites. And hindsight is 2020, and wisdom that you get when you're older, you see things. And I think I realized now that she was always kind of lonely, and that's why she just kept trying to find a church to belong to. But like me, she never really could find a place to belong. And, she always ended up fighting with people at the churches or moving on. And my mother never really had any close friends. And part of the reason, this is how I grew up as a kid, that she didn't have any close friends and I never had any close friends, was because we couldn't have people over because of my dad. Because you never knew when he would come home drunk and just embarrass us, right? So I didn't have very many friends when I was growing up, and we didn't have people over because we never knew when Peter was going to act up. I need to edit. I'm going to leave that name in there. We never knew when my dad was going to act up. So, and that continued on all the way through my adult life and my mother's life, because I even remember not even a year ago at this point when she was, kind of sort of trying to make a friend, and brought her up to their apartment, and my dad did as usual, came home drunk and embarrassed my mom, and that was that. So anyways, more background to the story that I'm going to tell you. So if you over this time, I want to say it was maybe 2021, my father got really, really sick and ended up in the hospital. And I think that's where my reality, not that I'm crazy or anything, but my reality of how I wanted to deal with people and things really started to fray. I don't really want to go into it, but I had such bullshit that I had to deal with the front desk there, and I reached out to a couple air quote friends to help me out during that time, and they were not available or just not understanding what I was going through. And and I remember I was walking down the street with just tears gushing down my eyes, and not a single person as I was walking up the sidewalk stopped to ask me if I was okay. And I noted that, because I know if I saw someone who was crying their eyes out and I walked by them on the street, I would take a moment and stop and say, hey, are you okay? What's going on? I just would. And again, I'm self-aware enough, even when the depths of my despair, to notice what is going on around me, and not a single person said a word to me. And that's when I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, everybody in my life's shit. I don't really have any real friends. People are just shit. I'm just done with it. And that was the beginning of me starting to really, really shut down. And now you got to know, on top of it, I physically don't feel well. My dad's sick. I can't talk to my mother about it because her logic isn't really the best, because it's always, talk to the man in the sky, and she wasn't really into science and stuff like that. So I've always been really in my own head and by myself because I've had no one to talk to. So that happened in 2021. That was towards the end of 2021. Yeah, towards the end of 2021. So now we're getting into 2022. Yeah. Because when my dad was in the hospital, it was probably about like October, November of 2021. So 2022, let's back up for a second. If you know me, you know I've gone through several bouts of unemployment, and usually they're very long stints of unemployment. One was almost for an entire year. I also worked for a company because I used to be a little idiot that wasn't taking out any taxes on my paychecks. And I've worked mostly as a contractor, for the majority of my career, and you're responsible for your own taxes. And I'm going to take full blame for this, but I also didn't have the best education financially, so I'm outing myself right now. And that shit all caught up with me at the beginning of 2022, and the IRS came after me. And I am not even going to tell you how much the IRS came after me for, but let's just say I have good credit, but I can't buy a house. And my passport may get taken away from me. And they have no way, any possible way of ever paying that. And they don't care that I went a year without working and that I almost got evicted from my apartment twice and I had to make up the back rent to make sure I kept my apartment. They don't care that I had medical bills. They don't care. Nobody cares about your personal life. They just want what they want now. And I don't know how I feel about that, but it's what happened in the beginning of 2022, which is a huge fucking stressor and still is. And basically any little bit of money I was making, don't get to keep it anymore. So I was dealing with that with the lawyers and with the IRS all the way through. That started to get kind of, it is what it is. That got to be, it is what it is. I want to say in the end of July of 2022. So this stress is going on. I'm also physically feeling worse and worse and worse. And I'm trying to find more doctors to talk to. So that's going on in 2022. Now, right before, in June of 2022, where I was working, I had a manager and she was really, really cool. But she decided to leave the company and I got a new manager. And my new manager was a raging cunt. And I was told not to say this out in public and stuff because this will affect future jobs. And to be honest with you, I'm hoping that my company takes off finally and I can work for myself. But I've never worked for somebody in my life who's gaslit me, who would say one thing and then if I questioned her on it, said she never said it, would not even admit to stuff that she put in emails or in Slack. Made me feel like I was crazy because I already don't feel good. But I mean, literally was just lying left and right, to the point that I wrote a lot of documentation at the company that I was at that, you know, for auditing purpose and stuff, it says who wrote the documentation. Okay. Had my name on it. And I log in one morning and every single bit of technical documentation and documentation for the projects that I had written all of a sudden had her name on it. I fucking kid you not. It wasn't Ms. Tech wrote this anymore. It was Raging Cunt wrote this. And she got away with it. I actually asked her about it. I was like, hey, why does it now say your name and not my name when you didn't write this? Oh, well, I was just trying to, fix some permissions and stuff. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. Which from auditing purposes, yes, it fucking is a big deal. It is a big deal. But, it was just all these little arguments that were starting to go on, behind the scenes. That's the beginning of the end. But she and I did not get along at all. I tried, but she was a raging cunt, and a liar and gaslighting and a whole range of stuff that, I don't want to be in the circle of hell that she's going to end up in. So this is starting to come to a head, in July, August. Now let's back up just a tiny little bit in 2022. I had seen a video about the California Zephyr, which is the train that goes from Chicago to San Francisco, Amtrak train. And it's supposed to have the best views and just really good scenery. And I was intrigued and said, I was talking to my mother and I was like, hey, you know what? Hey, I would like to go do that. I think I'm going to go do that. And she said to me, oh, I want to do that. I would like to do it too. And here's where I'm going to have a hard time probably getting through the rest of this story. And I was just like, I didn't want to go with my mother. She had been wanting to take a trip with me for years, but she was always very difficult, didn't like how people prepared her food, didn't like how people spoke to her, didn't like this, didn't like that. And it was just very peculiar. She had wanted to go on a cruise. I had no desire to go on a cruise, but she had kept wanting to spend time with me. And I didn't want to because I didn't want to argue. Because one thing I do try to do is I try to avoid arguments at work. I try to avoid arguments with my family. I actually try to avoid arguments with people. Not because I'm scared, not because of any of those things, but because deep down I'm very angry and I'm trying to be polite and I'm trying not to let my raw feelings and emotions come out. I keep myself under a high level of control, believe it or not. Like the stuff that you hear me say is not even the level of what's really going on in my mind. I could spit acid out of my mouth that'll not even burn you to the bones. It'll burn your bones as well. So I avoid
I avoid conflict, not because I'm afraid of conflict, because if I absolutely have to, I will, but because, it's just been too much conflict in my life to begin with, and I would just rather avoid it. So I didn't want to go do something with her. But for some reason, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I want to go on the California Zephyr by myself, but I am going to bring my mom with me. And so I made the plans for, I think it's Labor Day, it's the second holiday, major holiday in the summertime. And then when I made these plans, I think it was probably maybe end of May, June, I bought a sleeper on the Amtrak, which is the most expensive car, because it has a bathroom, for my mother and I to take the California Zephyr from Chicago to San Francisco. And because my mother was elderly, I was like, and she didn't like traveling on the airplane. She told me, I even spent money to bring first class tickets, fly back first class from San Francisco to Chicago, first class on United. And I also booked the Ritz-Carlton for one night in San Francisco for my mom and I to stay in, because I wanted her to have a nice trip. Now, I don't spend this kind of money on myself when I'm traveling. Like if I've got first class or business class, because I got a redonkulous deal on it. Otherwise I don't book it. But I wanted my mom to have a good trip. So let's bring it forward here. I'm starting to have problems with my manager and my job into July, August, and Labor Day is coming, and so I'm starting to put things together, the final things together for this trip with my mom and I on the California Zephyr. And my father had called me to tell me my mother wasn't feeling well, and for me to have a talk with her. And I went and had a talk with her, and things get kind of hazy with it. She's being her usual difficult self, and I knew she wasn't feeling too good, but she was just being how she usually is. Then she felt better and asked me to take her to the store one weekend. And I took her to the store, and she was just buying all this weird stuff, like stuff that she shouldn't be eating. She doesn't usually eat, but she wanted it. And I was like, Mom, what's going on? Are you okay? Are you okay? Like, why are you buying this? You don't eat this stuff. And she's like, no, I just want to try it. So I want to say a week after that, my dad called again, and I went over, and my mother was not well. She was on the couch, and she was really unwell, and I was trying to talk to her, and she had not had her medicine, and the reason why she didn't want to get her medicine was because she had read something that the medicine really was for white people, and it's not for black people, so she's not going to take it. And so, just to back up stuff, this was stuff that was going on, that she would be very paranoid, and the problem is that she was lucid and fine enough that I couldn't get any type of medical intervention, like mental health intervention, because it's a really fine line with that, because she could take care of herself, and she was feisty as ever, but there was just some things that were just like not right. And you could try to talk to her about it, but, it was just an argument. So I went to go talk to her, and she's laying on the couch, and she's really, really sick, and I'm finding out the medication, and she couldn't get the medication. It was nighttime, and I was like calling all around the city to find a Walgreens that was open for me to be able to get the medication, and I wasn't able to find one that had it until the very next day. And I was talking to her, and I was like, Mom, you need to go to the hospital. You need to go to the hospital, because she was really unwell. And she's like, I don't want to go to the hospital. I just want to go on my trip with you. And at this point in time, yeah, I got the time right. At this point in time, we're like a week and a half before we're supposed to go on this trip on Amtrak. So, I was just like, Mom, you can't go on the trip if you're not feeling good, because I don't want you dying on me on the trip. I'm going to get you your medicine tomorrow, and we'll see if the medicine makes you better. So some time goes by, wake up the next morning, I go get the medicine. When I get the medicine, I finally get the number of her doctor. And so I called the doctor and asked what was going on. And I finally get the full story of what's going on with my mom, because she refused to tell me. And I kind of gave an earful to the doctor as well. But long story short, she had to go to the hospital right then and there because her kidneys were failing. So I come back after talking to the doctor on the phone, and I had the medication. I'm like, Mom, you need to go to the hospital. You need to go to the hospital right now. She's like, no, I don't want to go to the hospital. I just want to go on my trip with you. And I was like, Mom, you're not going to make it. You got to go to the hospital. And so it was a lot of fighting, and I finally got her in my car, and I took her to the hospital, and I don't even really want to talk about it, because that's when I start getting really upset. I don't want to get into all the details. Got her to the hospital, and she was admitted. There's another whole side story where I can slam the hospital, and I could name the hospital, and they probably have a lawsuit against me, but I probably have a case against them, because I've never seen treatment so bad in my life. But she got admitted to the hospital, and I visited her every day at the hospital. So she was admitted, I think she was admitted on Thursday. Now, while this is going on, my dad is also having some sort of procedure going on. And because he's a fucking ass, he's saying, I don't want you calling me when I'm in the hospital. He didn't want me or my mother to call him, because he likes to go to the hospital and pretend his family doesn't care about him, because then the nurses feel sorry for him, which is not true. He told her. He told my mother, and he told me for us to not call him while he was having his surgical procedure done, which I'm not going to go into what that is. So when my mother went to the hospital, she told me, don't tell him I'm in the hospital. He didn't want me to know and you to know that what was going on with him, so don't tell him I'm in the hospital. So now I've got to deal with this, that she's in the hospital. My dad's also in the hospital at the same time, and I can't talk to him. I mean, I could, and I did call him anyways, but I didn't tell him that she was in the hospital because she told me not to. But now I've got two parents in the hospital. He finally comes home, and he asked me where my mother was, and I told him that she was in the hospital. And at this point, I think this is this is about 3 or 4 days after she got admitted, because he was in the hospital for 3 or 4 days. And, I told him over the phone that she was in the hospital. And then, I hung up because he started arguing with me. And I just, my mother's like, don't tell him anything. So while she's in the hospital for 3 or 4 days, she's not well, but she's still being her feisty self. Still arguing with the orderlies and stuff, and just still having very opinionated and everything. And I know she's not well, but, she doesn't seem like she's horrible. And the doctor kept asking her if she was bleeding when she was peeing yet, and she wasn't. And she made some sort of comment it seems like he's unhappy that I'm not doing it. And I'm kind of all over the place because there's just so many details, but I want to say it was the 4th day I was there, and I came to visit her because I didn't like the treatment of the hospital, so I was trying to get her to go transfer her treatment over to Northwestern Hospital. And she's very difficult, and and this is important, I was finally convincing her, because she could see she wasn't getting the treatment that she should be in the hospital, and that they were very careless. I was convincing her. She's like, well, maybe you should try to go see if there's a bed and they'll admit me and blah, 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 because was on Medicaid. And I knew 20 more minutes, I would be able to get her to say, do it. I could get her to let me get her over to Northwestern. While this was going on, and we were talking here and there, she went to the bathroom, and the room was very small, and I heard her say in the bathroom, well, I guess that's it, which was really weird to hear her say, I guess that's it. She leaves the bathroom, and I just kind of whatever. And she gets in bed, and I'm chatting to her, and she starts to doze off. And, she doze off, and then all of a sudden she started to have a stroke. And she's connected to all these machines and stuff, and nobody's coming. The nurses aren't coming. Nobody's coming or anything like that. So, I run out into the hallway because I'm like, why can you not see on the machines that my mother's having a stroke? Come help her, blah, blah. And they're telling me to calm the fuck down. Fuck you, bitch. You calm the fuck down. You should have been down here long before I even went to come get you. Now, side note here, my mother had a DNR, do not resuscitate. And we had discussed this, and one thing she never wanted to do was end up on machines, never wanted to be stuck in her own body, never wanted any of that stuff. So they all come in, and I'm going to skip some stuff here because you don't need to know all this other bullshit that happened. But it was 12 people run into the room. Four interns are snapping in her face like, Ms. Tex Mom, Ms. Tex Mom, Ms. Tex Mom, can you hear me? And I yell at them like command and control. Because if anyone knows my background, I know emergency management stuff, like command and control, one person speak to my mom. They finally take her on a crash cart, take her someplace else. And I think you could tell something was really wrong because what are they, like the directors of the hospital or something, came in the room pretending she had something to do. And she says to me, I can see you're quite scared right now. This must be scared. I'm like, I'm not scared. I'm angry. What are you guys doing? I'm not a woman who gets scared. So, but I do know when I see garbage going on. Anyways, I take my mom away, and she comes back 10 minutes later, and she's not my mom. So what had happened, she was in, that palsied kind of position when your arms can't move when somebody has a stroke. Her face is all twisted and stuff, and she can't talk. But I know my mom, and I can read her facial expressions and stuff. And she couldn't believe what was happening to her. She couldn't believe it. This I know. She couldn't believe what was going on. And the one doctor was saying, "Oh, look. She's smiling at me. She's smiling." Like, no, she's not smiling at you. She thinks you are the biggest idiots ever right now. I guarantee you she's not smiling at you. And I could just see my mother's expressions that she was agreeing with me, that I was reading every fucking thing that she was saying right then and there. So they all end up leaving, and the one nursing assistant he was the only nice guy there, and he kind of agreed with me that everything that was going on was just not okay, and the hospital was terrible. I said, I'm jumping over everything because we're running into 36 minutes and I'm nowhere near done with the story yet of 2022. But this is important because it's just everything that I've been dealing with. So I got into bed with her, and she curled up and she fell asleep. She's all palsied and stuff, and I am still working full time. I'm a contractor. I can't take time off. I don't have money or savings and stuff because of the IRS and stuff to be taking time off. I do stupid things in order to go do the things I like, but they're very stupid things. Judge me all you want. Believe me, the life I live is a lot harder than anything you could say about the decisions I make. But I had to go, and I was going to come back to the hospital later, and I leave, and on my way back home, actually, I was on my way to go talk to my dad finally in person and tell him what was going on. And I get there, and yeah, that was great. And as I was talking to him, saying, yeah, your wife's in the hospital, she's going through kidney failure, she just had a stroke, the hospital calls me and tells me that my mother was on the floor. I don't know how she ended up on the floor, but she's on the floor, and could I please come back? And obviously I went back to the hospital, and when I got there, she was back in the bed, but she was talking, and she's so happy to see me. She was talking, but she couldn't understand a word that she was saying because the stroke gave her aphasia. And aphasia is when a person, they're perfectly lucid, they're perfectly intelligent, and what they're saying is making sense. So I could sit here and be telling you about how the chocolate cake, and I really like chocolate cake, but I might be saying Murpha, taxi in the house of cat, snappy. The words don't match what's going on in the brain because the brain has been scrambled. So she knows what she's saying, and she's trying to tell me, and she's perfectly lucid, but the words are wrong. And my heart just broke looking at her because I'm her daughter. And now she can't talk to me. And I'm like, Mom, I don't understand anything that you're saying at all. And the look in her face. And the only thing she got out was saying well, I'd rather be dead than not be able to talk to you. And it was the last kind of clear sentence she ever said. She couldn't even say my name anymore. She couldn't say my name. So, I'm going to skip some of this other stuff here, but at this point in time, we decided to do hospice. Because there was no coming back at this point. Her kidneys were completely gone. So, I had power of attorney, and we decided to do hospice. And I'm going to pause for a second because I got to blow my nose, so bear with me for a second. Okay, let us continue. So we decided to do hospice, and she decided to do hospice at home. And I have power of attorney, and so, my mom stayed at my house for one day. It's another story just because of my dad, but she didn't want to die in my house, so she insisted on going back to her home, which I knew was going to be a whole load of drama and difficulty for me, which it was. And my mother at that point took 8 days to die at home. And the whole time my dad is blaming me and telling me that, I basically killed my mother because she didn't want extra things done, so I had to keep getting in the way because I had power of attorney to stop certain measures from happening. Because as you start dying, she already couldn't talk because she had aphasia. Plus, you get to be less lucid, and she didn't want to be drugged up, and she didn't want this. And I knew all these things because she had told me before. And I had to be that bulwark between my father and trying to, make her go back to the hospital and get dialysis, which would not have done anything, and trying to shove morphine down her throat when that's not what she wanted. So it took 8 days to die, and, I had to sit there and deal with my father. He got really mad one night and was just like, well, if nobody's going to listen to me, I may as well go listen to Fox News. My mother's dying on the couch, and he's blasting Hannity. Fucking dick. Anyways, my mother finally dies. And she had her stroke. 4 days before we were supposed to go on that trip. And so that is something that I have to live with, because I do have regrets that I did not get over myself and my discomfort and take her on a trip sooner. So if you're listening to this and your parents want something, even if they're difficult, you never know when they're going to go. Suck it up and go on a trip with your mom or your dad. Just suck it up, because when you finally intend to do it, it might just be too late. So that's something I've got to live with. Anyways, she dies, and meanwhile, work is still being worse and worse and worse. This manager is being worse and worse and worse. We're in September now, and we buried my mother a week after she died, and nobody was there. It was just my father and I, and my father, being the wonderful person that he is, it's all about him. Didn't once give me a hug or ask me how I was doing. It was all about him. And the only thing that I was saying was like how sad it was that nobody else was there. Now, while that was going on, I had my car. This is important. I had my car in the shop because I had a $4,700 repair because the clutch gave out on my car. So I had to take my motorcycle to the cemetery to say goodbye to my mother. My father went home. The funeral director took him back home. So I got on my bike to go back home. I can't make this shit up. On my way back home on the motorcycle, I was perfectly fine. I was upset, but I wasn't crying and stuff. I was actually just thinking about how that motorcycle's been through everywhere with me. I was in the right-hand lane, about, at that point, 5 minutes from my house, right before McDonald's, when a black Chevy Tahoe that was driving in the left-hand lane thought he was going to have a Big Mac attack and made a right-hand turn into the right-hand lane from the left. So he's in the left lane making a right-hand turn to go into the McDonald's drive-thru and cuts me off. So I obviously hit him because he turned his SUV right in front of me. I hit him on my little Ducati. So I hit a Chevy fucking Tahoe with my little Ducati. And I guess maybe somebody was looking out for me. Maybe it was my mom, because I didn't end up smeared all over the road. I gotta pause this again. I never got the really cute, pretty crying crap. So hold on. So let's continue. I hit the ground. Motorcycle damaged. Chevy fucking Tahoe. It wasn't damaged. If it wasn't for the years of martial arts, where I know, from Aikido and from Jiu-Jitsu, that you don't brace when you're falling down. You don't put your hand down. You sit there and you roll through it. And also from the years of riding motorcycles and motorcycle training I've had, that you drop, if the bike is going down, you drop it. You do not hold onto the bike, because if the bike's going to get dragged, so are you. When you're in an accident, when you want to separate yourself from the bike, and have the bike take all the damage and hopefully you skid the other way. And that is exactly what happened, because I'm over my young and dumb parts of my life, and God bless, I had motorcycle armor on. So I had my motorcycle jacket. I need some motorcycle pants now, because I fucking got really scraped up bad on my booty, and on my thigh. I got a really nice puncture scar now. And I slammed down on my shoulder, and I protected my head so the helmet never hit the ground, which is important, because this is why his insurance is saying that I faked it and nothing's wrong with me. Nothing happened. It wasn't really a bad accident, because the motorcycle helmet had no scratches on it. There were no tire skid marks on the ground, and there's no dent on his car, because the Chevy Tahoe got hit by a little 400-pound Ducati. I can't make this shit up. So the ambulance comes and gets me, and the cops didn't come at the time, and they met me at the hospital. And we're almost done with this part, but I just have to bring it up here. Like, they're asking me about who my emergency contact is, and I just burst into tears in the middle of the ER, like, I don't have one anymore because I just buried her. Fucking dramatic as hell, but it was all truthful. And let me tell you this, I had a whole bunch of reporting due that day, and I was in the ER, and I was messaging my manager, my team members, and I got my reporting done. I still got my reporting done. This is important, because through all of this, I didn't take a single day off, and I got all my work done. My work was always done and on time, and with quality. That's a fact. I think that's a Gen X thing. Is like, you don't whine, you suck it up, buttercup, and you get it done, because nobody gives a fuck what's going on in your personal life. You can't use your personal life as an excuse, because for the most part, people say they understand, but they don't. And corporate America certainly doesn't fucking understand. All they care about is their money. Anyways. So, yeah, I got hit by a Chevy Tahoe on the day I buried my mom on the way back from the cemetery. So, we're in September, end of September into October now. Had to go to physical therapy because I had shoulder impingement because of the accident. More drama, more bullshit going on at work. It's just getting worse and worse. I'm being gaslit and having my meetings taken away from me and stuff. We're rolling into November now, and at this point in time, I had actually gone and complained to my manager's manager about how I was getting treated and the gaslighting and, all this weird stuff, which, it's the beginning of the end. That's the end. HR and your manager's manager is not going to help you, but you have to try to do something. I couldn't not say anything. And the day before Thanksgiving, which was also my 47th birthday, I was informed that my services were no longer needed at the job, and to have a happy birthday and the best of Thanksgivings. My manager said that to me. Yeah. Yes, she was well aware that my mother had just died. She was well aware that I had been hit by a car, and she knew it was my birthday, and she also knew the day before Thanksgiving was a really good day to terminate my job. So I lost my job. I'm not working now. So right before Thanksgiving, right before Christmas, I have no income. And that has been my very lovely 2022. That's why I faded off the face of the earth, because I've been dealing with health issues for a couple of years. Let me back up too. So, but in August, where I started this out, in August, we finally got a word for why I feel so bad. I went through early menopause. I wasn't going to talk about this, but because we don't talk about menopause. Women don't talk about it because it's like a shameful thing, because we're unfuckable then. So I would like to announce to you all that, yes, it is official. Not only am I fat, but I'm also officially unfuckable. Because I went through menopause actually earlier than I should have. That's a misnomer. I went on it earlier than is typical for most women, and I went through full menopause, like no estrogen, everything's gone way too fast. And it probably had been starting. It actually probably had been starting the last time I went to Thailand, because that's when I noticed I couldn't lose any weight and the injuries weren't healing. So, and you need estrogen. This is why I have a bunch of torn ligaments now that never healed, is because, and I have tendonitis because estrogen helps lubricate the joints. And if you're not making any, your joints aren't getting lubricated. The tendons are not getting lubricated. If you don't have estrogen, that's why you can't sleep. If you don't have estrogen, that's why you might get a lot of headaches. If you don't have estrogen, that's why it makes it very difficult to lift weights. So they put me on hormone replacement therapy. And, you know, if anybody's interested in this, I can obviously do a whole podcast talking about it. And maybe I should. I know there's more men. I think it's only men who listen to me. So you probably would rather hear me talk about MMA and shit like that. But if you are curious, leave a comment and, you know, I can explain some of that stuff to you in case your wives and girlfriends are curious or what they're going through, because I had to learn a lot. But yeah, one of the things I'm going to do is be open about it. I'm not going to hide it. It shouldn't be shameful. It's something that all women eventually will go through, and all of the stereotypes and stuff from it, it's not the same for every woman. And, you know, it's just really sad. I was making a comment that, you know, men are able to feel, when they don't feel well, they want to feel virile and sexual and strong and manly man, and so they get TRT, and there's like new male clinics and all kinds of lotions and potions and juices and stuff to make sure that men are still virile and sexy and that they can still impregnate people when they're dead and rotting in the ground. They can still squirt out winners. But women, we're told just to, hey, you don't feel good? It's the change. Just accept it, bitch. I'll accept this shit once I'm cold and dead in my fucking grave. I ain't accepting this shit. Now that I know what it is, I'm starting to try to do something about it. Hence why you've seen the posts. I needed a little time for myself. You know, I've needed a lot of time for myself. And some of these problems I've told you about aren't gone, and I've skipped a lot of stuff. Like, I may be a bastard. I don't know. I don't even know really the truth about my mother anymore, because when I was cleaning up stuff, some stuff came out. I mean, I have hidden siblings that I didn't have, siblings on my dad that he never admitted to, half siblings from my mom. I mean, it's just, it's so fucked up. So, like, my whole world was just kind of like going since, that probably popped the mic, since, everything just started really falling fucking apart in August. But I needed some time for myself, and I went something stupid, spent the money I don't have since I don't work to go to the Galapagos, as you may have seen, because I needed to break. I needed to break everything that was going on so that I could try to figure out how I was going to move forward. Because for a moment there, I wasn't too sure if I could move forward, if I wanted to move forward, and if there was a point even in moving forward, you know? I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest about these things. I mean, I felt like, well, I felt like I had no friends. I felt like nobody cared about me. I had no family. I had nothing. My mother, I knew, has always loved me more than anything. And she was always in my corner. My dad loves me, but he's not necessarily in my corner. Because, you know, he was explaining to me about why he thought Kanye was a genius, and, well, isn't Candace Owens a really great woman? And I'm just like, well, I'm sorry, Candace Owens isn't your daughter. Yeah. And no, he and I don't talk anymore. I'm not even going to get into that, because that all came to a head in November, and we disowned each other. So I haven't spoken to my father since, and I don't want to, and I don't need to. And he did something that was really, really bad. And some things you just get to the point when you're at my age, it's just like, well, kind of like what I was saying, you know, I decided that I needed to be in a better place, and I needed to be surrounded with better people. And here's the irony between all of that. It's like, I have complained for the longest time that I have no friends, that I have no support, because it's true, I haven't. I have definitely found out through all of this who my friends really are, because I know who stepped up for me and who hasn't. I'm very well aware of it. And the funny thing is that, and especially when you're older, when you start to get into midlife, it's very hard to make relationships and friendships. But the irony is that since the end of November, December, I've had a couple people step up, come into my life, and have proven to be real friends. So for the first time, in the longest fucking time, I feel like I've got friends. And I know I've got some people out there who actually care about me. They care about me. And I haven't felt that since I can remember. They check on me, they call on me, you know, they shoot the shit with me. And, you know, they'll help me out. And I gotta pause for a moment because my nose. Sorry about that. There's people who have really just all of a sudden come into my life who have made it clear that they enjoy me as a person. They want to be my friend and they care about me and want to make sure that I stay in their life. And that feels wonderful because I can't remember the last time people have actually shown. Here's my cat going in the background. In case you guys have missed her, have really made me feel like I mattered. That's sad, but that's what's been going on. As I said, I just checked out because it just seemed like nobody gave a shit what I had to say anymore, what I did, or how I felt. And lately, people seem to care. Hopefully that lasts and it's not pity. You know, I'm really sorry. I can't shut her up. She's decided to wake up, and I'm not going to re-record this because it's really long. So that's been going on, and that's a positive thing. And as you guys saw, I said I would start doing my podcast again. And what I'm hoping to do is I'm actually going to interview. I have a couple interviews planned coming up. So hopefully I can get a podcast out to you guys every week. Even while I'm gone in Antarctica, I'll have some pre-planned if this all works out. They won't be all personal, sad podcasts like this one, but I wanted to explain to people what was going on. And, you know, I want to end this on a positive note that, like, as I said, you know, I've lately found some people who seem to jam with me and feel like friends, and I don't feel so isolated anymore. The HRT has been working. I don't feel like I did before, and I never will. And the fact that I got on it so late, like the torn ligaments and stuff, could have been prevented. There's a lot of stuff that could have been prevented if I'd gone to a doctor who was actually really listening to me and decided to run the right tests. But at least I sleep now, which is fantastic. And the migraines are really been greatly reduced. And I have enough energy to actually go to the gym. And when I lift weights, I haven't started to lift heavy yet, but the lifting that I'm doing isn't wiping me out, which it was doing before. Like, I would just be wiped the fuck out and just hurt so bad. And now it's just the regular soreness. I have enough tolerance that I decided to try jiu-jitsu again. I'm not doing Muay Thai because I may start it, but I can't hold pads, which is why I'm not doing the Muay Thai. I can punch, but I can't hold pads because it has to do with the position of the hand and how my tendon is. And if my hand is closed, I have strength in the tendon. But if my hand is open-faced, I can't take a hit in that direction. It just hurts like, and I don't know. I've been told I need to have surgery, and I have 3 torn ligaments in my foot. And I was told to do physical therapy, but I didn't have the money to do it, and I especially not now. But I think it's physical therapy, and that's probably surgery. So I don't know. Or I'm gonna hope to see that maybe by training things get better. So that's going on. As you can see, I've recorded a podcast. I've got a lot of content that I'm working on for another website of mine, which is called Tech Dives, techdives.com. You'll go there now and you'll just get a landing page because it's not quite ready for prime time. But by the time February rolls around and I'm on my way off to Antarctica, there'll start being little posts there, and there's going to be a video about my trip to Ecuador. If you're into scuba diving, that might be something that you want to check out. Mightbetasty.com will start coming up online again. That's going to be a little bit more, I don't want to use the word PC, but I'm going to keep the political rants and crap off that page. More of the travel. I think I'll put the fitness stuff on there as well, because the goal is to become beastly again. And hopefully lose all this fucking weight. I don't know that I'm going to go on camera anytime soon because I feel really self-conscious about it. But I might. I need to get over myself and get over bullshit. You know, it happens to all of us. And, you know, if you want to come after me about something that it's really was beyond my control, it says more about you than it does about me. Fuck society, right? But fuck society and social norms. I need to be the example to everybody else like I used to be. So, on a positive note, as I said, I'm trying my best to get myself out of the hole. And finally, I've had my own IT company for quite a while now, and I'm hoping to get some more clients in this year. I need to, because if I can avoid working in directly for other people again, that's really better. And I'm actually really, really good at what I do, but I'm better when I'm consulting. And more of a partner to companies than when I have a manager, because I'm really smart, and when I'm smarter than most people, God, I sound like an asshole and I don't care. If I'm smarter than my manager, that never goes well, and I'm smarter than the vast majority of the managers I've had in the past, so that doesn't work out very well. For either one of us. Anyways, I hope this answers some questions. I won't say I hope you enjoyed this podcast, because it definitely was not an enjoyable story. But stay tuned next week. Who knows what I'm going to talk about, because we got to see what's going to happen during the week and what catches my fancy. But yeah, expect It's Complicated to come back. And if you have any questions or comments, you know how to get to me. Otherwise, Happy New Year. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for lending me your ear. And thanks for your understanding. Let's see where the road takes us this year. Talk to you next week.